Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you. In this one, I'm talking about 3 things that Sweden does better than the US. Let's go. So I got my kitties here on the table. Of course, they like to be in the videos. And I thought about 3 more things that Sweden does better than the United States. And they're not like major things, but they're things you definitely notice when you live here. Now, number 1 for me has to be hot water. And one of the first things I ever noticed when I moved into my first apartment here in Sweden was as soon as I went to take a shower and turn on the hot water, it got instantly hot. And I had never experienced that before ever in the US. Every place I've ever been in the US, it always took like a minute to 30 seconds for yourself to start to get that hot water, which you definitely notice when you're in a shower and you're very cold. But it seems like no matter where I have lived here in Sweden, every apartment place I live in, every time I try to get instant hot water, it happens. It doesn't matter what city I'm in or anything. And it must just be the way they do their water systems here. And it's super impressive, sometimes to the point where I could actually burn myself because the water gets so hot and it got too quickly. That's some of the things that happens to me here when I have that mistake. That'll happen to me from time to time. But yeah, not sure how they do it, but yeah, check it out. I don't know if it's like that in all parts of Europe or not, but write in the comments below if it's something you've noticed if you came to Sweden from the US. Number 2 has to be fraud. Fraud is just something that's so common in the United States. I can't tell you how many times someone's taken my identity, got a hold of my social security number or something else. And it just doesn't happen in the same degree as it does in the US. If fraud happens in Sweden, it has to do with mostly prank phone calls and people getting personal information that way, or you call someone that's really elderly, and that happens. One common one happening now, which is just horrible for the coronavirus vaccine, is that so many people are like calling those people and telling them they can get a shot, and they have nothing to do with it, and they're just trying to scam these people out of money, which is horrible. One reason it doesn't happen here in Sweden is because we have something called mobile bank ID, which connects your personal number, which is kind of like your social security number in the US, but it's connected to only one device. And if you set it up properly, that means in order to purchase anything or do anything that's supposed to be you, up until like even paying your taxes, you have to have a device that's on a phone that only you have access to, and you put in a personal code. That makes it much more difficult for people to steal steal from your accounts, because they have to have so many things go wrong before they can do it. So I really hope in the future the United States can move to a more modern system, kind of like mobile bank ID. There might be a couple things around, but I think it would really, really help with fraud, because I think especially with all the internet purchases happening and so many people buy online now, it just makes sense to use the same system that we have in Sweden and in the US. I think it would really cut down on fraud, and you could use it for a lot more things to identify yourself with, which is kind of nice when you don't have an ID handy or something else. You just use your mobile bank ID, you're good to go. What's also awesome with that is you can pay family and friends really easily if you use this in combination of Swish, which makes it very easy to send money back and forth. We have different services in the States, but again, as I always say, it's nice to have one that's connected for everything. And then this last one might be kind of a random one, and I'll say this, it's going to be electricity and the internet, and it has to be with kind of how it works. And one thing you notice, this is like one thing I always forget when I go back to the States, but I've noticed right away because it just sticks out like a sore thumb, and that is power lines. Power lines is just not something you see in Sweden, where it seems like a lot of the electricity and things that are made for electricity are running underground, where for some reason in the US, we kind of stuck with the power lines method. And I'm sure we're getting more modern. If you go to a more modern area, you probably don't see as much power lines, but it's very, very common. And one of the negative side effects of that is when you have power lines above the ground, it's really easy for something to happen to them that causes the power to go out. So the electricity going off in the United States could happen to me 5, 6, 7 times a year. And it might not have been long every single time. It could be like a thunderstorm or something like that. I can say in all the time that I've lived here in Sweden, I've had the power go out just once. And one thing that seemed to be somewhat connected to the power, maybe I'm wrong, but also the internet, because if the power would go out, I wouldn't have internet. But I did have a few times where the internet would go out for one reason or another that had to do with the wiring. Again, it's not an issue that I had in Sweden. We lost the internet for a week here once in Sweden, but it had to do with so many people getting on the internet when everything started, with people having to work from home. But they were able to fix that. But that was a huge bummer, no doubt there. But overall, I don't experience this stuff thing. So I really enjoy the hot water here. I enjoy the fact that our electricity is underground, and I enjoy the benefits of not having fraud. And these are just three simple things that I think if the United States could implement in the future, it would just make us more modern. I think one of the reasons it happens in America so much just simply has to do with the fact that when you're that big of a country, it sometimes takes a while to move everything to like a more efficient way. And sometimes I wish in the United States we had more Elon Musk type people in charge, as far as always looking for the smartest way to do a solution and not always just stick to these paperwork ways. So this is what I thought. I thought it was pretty interesting. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey,